Can you find happiness in the wake of war? Is redemption earned or granted? And why do I have a duckling in my shirt? Welcome to Mythic Mirror, a podcast for fans of myth and fantasy who want to live magical, fulfilling lives. I'm your host, Mary C. Kehoe.
And I'm your co-host, Carolina Carter.
So I have 5 new little ducklings, and we're naming them all after Jane Bennett because they're all perfect. But one of them was smaller than the rest, and she was struggling. So we've been feeding her with a syringe, and I have her in my shirt right now because that can actually help little baby birds and baby animals to be close and feel your heartbeat and get the warmth from your skin. Just like real babies, they do better. So, and we decided she needed a little bit more fire and energy. So her name is Elizabeth Bennett.
Yes.
So the cheeping you hear is
a life being saved.
Exactly.
Yes.
So before we get into plot points that I want to discuss with you about the ending of this book, I wanted to first kind of go over, now that we've finished the series, what you think of the themes of this series.
I think the major theme of this series is sacrifice. And what everyone, because every single one of these characters has sacrificed so much for either their loved ones or for Devabad or for both. And not saying anybody sacrifices better than anybody else, but I felt that, I think I'm getting ahead of myself.
Go ahead.
No, not going ahead. How about for you?
First, the one that stood out to me right after finishing the book was individual liberty, especially with Dara and Nari, which we can get into. But I think we see that with Ollie as well. And I completely agree with you about sacrifice. It is not one of the ones I wrote down, but I completely agree. Just the 2 other ones that I was thinking about was morality in wartime, and also peace and how you get there, like what it actually takes to get to peace. I'm distracted by the duckling.
I know, that's so cute. Why don't I mean, I have a cat on my lap. That's pretty good, but cat on a lap is better than a duckling. I mean, it's not better. It's conciliatory prize for a duckling in a shirt. I believe you do have the proverbial bird in hand.
Yes, I do.
Yes. I think one of the places I wanted to start, because we missed him last time, was we have not talked about Sobek.
Yes, a huge introduction that we didn't even talk about, and then he just got more and more important as the book went on. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to tell our dear listeners, obviously this will be jam-packed with spoilers, so if you have not finished this book, stop, finish, and then listen and let us know what you think. So Sobek is the Marid of the Nile, and as we find out, he is Ali's predecessor, that he did create a sort of Marid Jinn bloodline that he thought he had then wiped out, but no, Ali survived. And it's funny because I was thinking back on it, it's hinted at so heavily throughout the book. She basically tells us, and I was still shocked when it finally comes to light. You know, everybody has called Ali crocodile this whole time. They leave little crocodile effigies at the place. He heals with water. He swims. He talks about being able to use water magic when he was little. And I was flabbergasted when I found out he was part Marid.
That's funny. Yeah, she did a good job of laying it out without making it, you weren't bored by the time you found out. You just, right. I felt, okay, he definitely has a connection to the Marid in some way, to the water, but what is it? And I was excited to find out what it was.
Even him not being able to attack Dara, I was like, that's weird. Oh, well. I didn't really think about it.
Yeah. Well, she throws a lot at you. It's like that wasn't the only plot line you were following. Yeah, so since we're talking about Sobek first, what I wanted to talk about with him was the fascinating way in which she creates this character that feels so ancient and at first feels like he doesn't care about humans or jinn at all. And then as you get to know him, it's not like he suddenly becomes this warm, sentimental, like, oh, now I understand him. He's not the old crotchety man. He
Mm-hmm.
he's still ancient and uncaring, and yet he has his own code and his own way of caring.
Mm-hmm.
And you find out, yes, he wiped out all of his family that he had founded, but it was because he knew they were either going to be killed by him quickly or tortured by Tiamat at the bottom
Maybe
of the
for all
ocean.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, so you as you go, you're like, wow, you're still, your thought process is very cold, but you understand him a lot more. And when
Right.
he gives, and he never says anything or shows affection, but just by his very actions, you start to realize this Marid cares deeply for his people, his followers, and his family.
Yes. It is interesting too the way Ollie describes that sort of coming to understand him as well. Just talking about how he is just from a different time, and that's how the way, just, it's not good, it's not bad, it's just the way it was. People sacrificed people to him, he became more powerful. That's just, he does not care. And I think I do appreciate that representation of old gods. I think sometimes old gods can be represented as very petty, and I enjoy a book more when they're represented as something more primal, less uh less of just like a petty bickering god who wants their blood, but more of just like that is just, yeah, I don't know a better way to say it than primal. It's just the way it is. Blood sacrifice was just how it was done.
Mm-hmm. A little less humanized too.
Yeah. Yes. And
There are
he's,
reasons.
more crocodile than not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you do see when Nari's mother is, she has an ongoing um, friendship with Sobek, and she gives blood without sacrificing someone else or something else. She just gives some of her own blood. She doesn't die either, but I mean, at some point she does die.
Yes.
And speaking of that moment when Nari realizes how much of herself is from her mom, and that ability to take a unwinnable moment and still, come out on top, even though the mom dies, she still dies in such a way that ensures Nari's survival and protection.
Yeah, she dies outwitting Maniza.
Yeah, which, does anyone else? I mean, not until the very end does Dara outwit Maniza.
I know, and there was that moment, when Nari goes to kill Maniza and Jemshed's like, she's still our mother. And I'm like, for real, Jamshed? For real? And like wants to be there for her last burial rites. And then after that, you find out truly everything Maniza's done. And you're like, I think that's why the time with Cartier is so important. When Dara asks him, was there ever any good in her? And he's like, yes. I don't know if I believe him.
I know she's so, the way she just lies so easily, murders so easily, and for how many years has she been planning this, and not just saving Davabad, her the power. It seems like it was all about power for her. It takes a lot to, if someone was really just, if their main goal was to save their fellow Devas, it would take a lot more to get them to execute the whole arena of them. Like she
Yeah.
slipped into that real quick.
That was, and like handing their souls off to the Ifrit. I'm like, that was, you did that quick. Oh, and then, enslaving her final act of, not her final act of cruelty, but it actually enslaving Dara.
Oh, that moment.
Unbelievable. Oh, Dara might be the only other person who was able to trick her.
I said that.
I said that.
Well, I'm glad we said that.
I'm glad we agree.
But let's go to the moment when she actually enslaves Dara. She's been doing it in, through manipulation up till this point.
Mm-hmm.
But that moment was so tragic and suffocating and unbelievable. It's just, I mean, I could believe she was doing it, but just the fact that it would happen to him again. And right before that, you have the Ifrit saying, "You should have flown. You should have fled." And and this whole time, you realize that Ifrit specifically had been telling him to get out. He knew where this was headed, and not that he's good. He's also the one that wants to enslave and kill Nari. And yeah, it turns out none of the Ifrit were good. We had wondered back in the beginning when we were realizing not everything the Devas think are true. That one, yeah, those, at least the ones we met, no good. They were just different degrees of no good.
Yeah. And even, a no good being can appreciate freedom. So he was like, look, you should run. You're in your absolute most powerful form. You should go. But Dara's a dummy, and he didn't.
Right. He's also selfless, which gets weaponized against him throughout the series. To a fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I very much appreciate that Dara is kind of the classic example of a tragic flaw, and yet Chakraborty was able to so clearly show that and show what happens when you don't fix that tragic flaw in time, but also that he doesn't die. He doesn't end in tragedy. I mean, it's bittersweet, but his redemption arc, she made it actually believable.
Yep.
It wasn't like, it wasn't, yeah, there's no way you can recover from this, so we'll have you killed off heroically and everyone will feel sad, but it'll be good. And it wasn't, all right, well, it's all right. You realized it in the end.
Right. And I don't think we could have accepted a bitter ending would have been terrible, and a sweet ending we would have been like, maybe too sweet. And that this bittersweet ending is triggered by Nari offering the choice to him, being like, I will not bring you back from death without your consent. You can go or you can stay. And that he chooses to stay, and he chooses that redemption path that Cartier kind of forged for him in his brain is wonderful. And it's also like so brilliant because that is like a major loose end when you're like, they did get Davabad, but all these souls that they have been resting are now enslaved to the Ifrit.
Right.
Is horrible.
Because Maniza was willing to give away all of them.
All of them. She's like truly evil.
Sorry. Speaking of her lying, I loved the moment when Jamshed and Nari are confronting their mother together. Well, at least they think she's both of their mother. And she, is weaving truth in with lies. And she tells Jamshed that Nari is not his sister and she is a Shafid and she'll always be unreliable and lying. And, she tries to paint Nari as this outsider who will always be untrustworthy and is just terrible. And Nari is afraid Jamshed's going to believe her. She knows that he's just coming around to realizing his own prejudice and letting go of it. And he's only had Nari as a sister for what, like a week?
Yeah.
So she really thinks this could be it. He could turn on her and believe his mom, who he's longed for his whole life. and he says, what does he say? I stand with my people, my sister, and my city, and you're a danger to all three.
Yeah.
And throughout the rest of the book, he always calls her his sister.
I know.
And it's especially for her, who feels like everything she loves gets taken from her. She's been without a family her whole life and doesn't remember her mom at all until, until the very end of this book. So what a precious gift that is.
Yes, and can we talk about that character arc for a moment too? Were you surprised
By what?
when Nari is poisons Jamshed to leave him in Tanitri,
Oh, yeah.
and she doesn't give him the choice, just like she realizes that she was not given the choice, and then she's facing Maniza by herself, and you think she's done it, and then Jamshed comes to her rescue, and you realize that she has grown, and she waited for him and unpoisoned him and said sorry. I thought that was just incredible, wonderful character growth, because at this point you understand she is so afraid because everything she loves is killed and everything she tries to build gets broken. So I was on her side, poisoning him and leaving him behind. I totally was. I was like, fair enough.
Right. I loved that. I also felt a little, it drew me out for a moment just because we hadn't had that kind of jump before where something pivotal's happening with Nari that we totally skip and then find out later.
Yeah.
So it took me out a second, but I mean, I was so happy with the arc and her choice that I got over it real quick.
It was like watching the Muppets when he's like, and Tiny Tim, who did not die.
Yep.
It was exactly like that.
It was,
There's actually a lot of similarities between this book and A
I
Christmas
didn't
Carol.
know till right now, but it's practically the same story.
Yeah, pretty much. If you've read one, you've read the other, is what I've always said.
So let's talk about, you said the theme of sacrifice. So where do you see that, not only in this book, but the whole series?
Okay, so let's go through the main characters. So Ollie, his ultimate sacrifice. Obviously, he's been sacrificing things his whole life. He was raised to be Cade, which means he sacrificed everything to be his brother's protector. Blah 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 through the whole book. Final is when he is in the Marid territory and he is facing down Tiamat, and she says, "Give me your name, your full name. I will drain all the fire from your blood, and you will be fully one of us." And he does it. To return to Nahri to save Devabad, that is a huge sacrifice, and he makes that sacrifice. So that was huge. Then you have Dara, who's been sacrificing everything all the time. And then that final one, I think, is when he gives up paradise to stay on Earth, maybe forever, to redeem himself, to work to fix what he has broken. And then we have Jamshed, who arguably, I feel like you could say, had to sacrifice his mother. Granted, he's not the one who killed her, and maybe I'm missing something major with him.
No, he didn't kill her, and yes, he asked Nari to heal her, but at the very point when he finds out he's a Nahid and she asks him to join her, like, yes, your mother and father are now in control of Devabad, but we want you to join us. I think he let go of his hope for his family to be together at that point, at least on some level.
And this whole story started with sacrifice, with Doria and Rustum. Rustum sacrificing his life so that Nahri and her mother can get away. And then ultimately, she gets a few more years with her mom, and her mom has to sacrifice herself to Sobek to give Nari protection. So Nari enters this world alone because her both parents have made the ultimate sacrifice for her life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I say this tidbit a little too much in my life, but I'm realizing I don't think I've said it on the podcast. But I just like the etymology of words. And the one that's always stuck with me is that sacrifice comes from sacrafagio, which means to make sacred.
You know what? I don't think you could say that one too much. I too love etymology, and I haven't heard you say
I
it.
think it's
So
important. Oh,
I think so. It is very good. It's a very good point. I love when the roots of words add depth.
and then to end all of that, I feel that Nari choosing to drive the dagger into her own heart instead of Dara's at the end, because you could argue that killing Dara would be a huge sacrifice, but that all these people, Anahid, had been given this power by the Perrys and had to make a huge sacrifice. Ali Zaid Al Khatani the first had been given a huge power by the Perrys and the Marid and had to make a huge sacrifice. Nari is also given this choice and makes this and chooses to sacrifice herself instead. And I feel like that is what breaks this pattern and what allows them to actually begin healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that brings us to the theme of liberty and individual liberty, where throughout the book it's either taken from you, it's taken from these characters, or they give up part of it themselves as part of that sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, Nari saw how these powerful beings and these powerful forces are constantly pushing and controlling Devabad and her people. So it's not just that she wants to save Dara, it's that it's like you said, she wants to break that cycle. She is by conning them, pretty much, by calling their bluff and stabbing herself, which she didn't know if she was going to survive. She didn't know if it was a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
So by sacrificing herself, she's not just saving one person she loves, she's claiming her own individual liberty and the liberty of all the Jinn and Deva from these forces in
Mm-hmm.
calling it out. Another,
mm-hmm.
Obviously, with Dara, his is a huge. His arc is a lot about or the theme of. Let me try that again. Obviously, with Dara, liberty and individual freedom weaves throughout his whole life, where even when he was young and a captain and the favorite of the Ashvins,
Afshins.
yeah, those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Even when he was young, before he had become the scourge, he still wasn't free. He thought he was free, but he was so controlled, brainwashed, and mentally controlled. So I really don't think Dara was free until that moment when he chooses to shoot Nari and totally fake out Maniza and save everyone. That was his
Mm-hmm.
first real free act. I think he had a respite when Nari first met him, and
Mm-hmm.
but even that, he was battling against. I have to take her back to Devabad. So he was following
Mm-hmm.
something that he felt he had to do.
Do you think he meant to shoot Nahri, or do you think that happened very quickly and then he was like, it broke something in him and he knew he had to end Maniza?
No, I think he did it on purpose because that was the only way she'd really believe that he was on her side.
Hmm.
And he did it in a way he knew she'd survive. He shot her in the shoulder so that, and he knew that she was a Nahid, so that there'd be the healing magic would be helping her survive. And then once he pulled it out, she'd be able to heal. So
Did he fake you out at all?
For a second, I thought, oh no, trauma brain. He's
Mm-hmm.
flipped. He's flipped
Mm-hmm.
back into the trauma of his family dying and the Marid attacking the city. It's taken him back, and he's not in the present time anymore. And then as he kept talking, that was right in the very beginning. And then as he kept talking, and he's saying, cruel things about Nari, and that's when I started to think, I think he's about to save the day.
Mm-hmm. I was pretty faked out until he mentioned Tamima. And he was like, no, you're not the only one who gets to use Tamima's memory. And I was like, he might still be in there.
Yeah.
Because he's still mad about that.
Mm-hmm.
As you would be.
Right. And there's that great line, and I'm not even sure when he thinks it. It's when he's looking at either Montadir or Ali, and he thinks it's not his family that's destroyed mine. The family that destroyed mine is still doing so. But he's finally allowed himself to even think that it's the Nahids that destroyed his family.
Mm-hmm. Can we talk about the Perry for a moment?
Oh, yes, let's.
Find myself supremely annoyed by them. They're talking about that they are these, speak to the angels and these higher beings, but they are what I was talking about with this like petty, when people describe, like older gods being petty. The Perry, I feel like, are just my note that I wrote are the Perry are annoying. Talks to angels, question mark, question mark, question mark.
I think that is a self-proclaimed myth on their part.
Yeah.
Just because they are of the air doesn't mean they are of the angels.
Yeah, it seems like they do have a more power, but like kind of for what? Like, what do they do? What do they do all day? They just judge and come down every once, because it also seems that every time they've come down and helped someone, a Nahid, Ali Zaid, that it is a moment of massive change that eventually makes everything worse.
And how Nari realized none of this is about the cruelty and that's going on. It's never about wanting to end bloodshed. It's wanting to keep things less powerful than themselves.
Right.
I had hoped that there would be some like Kaiser who are wise. The first one we ever meet is kind and wise, and he's the last one that is kind and wise.
Right.
When you meet the rest of them, even Nari thinks, no wonder Kaiser spent time with Dara. Oh, these people are annoying.
Yeah. And even the way they rip her up onto the mountain and they're like, of course you have a choice to come with us or not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, if you stay here, you'll die, but it's a choice. It's like, it's so irritating.
Yeah. Did I have a choice to be taken up to this mountain that could kill me? No, no, I did not. That was you.
No, naturally. It's like they annoyed me more than Maniza. Like, she's evil, but they're annoying.
Yeah. She was scary, but not annoying.
Oh, yeah. Big time. I think her villain arc is, hello.
Someone has climbed up. Yeah, hi. Are you feeling better? Yeah. I'd like to say hello to the people.
Hi, honey.
You've been saying hi this whole time. We hear you. Well, with that interruption, shall we go to a Discworld Delight? Now, we don't have any guesses for this one because we are recording early because Carolina, where will you be?
I will be going to Canada to record some music with my band.
Yay! So we are recording early. So no guesses. So we'll just say everybody guessed correctly.
You did so good.
It is equal rights. So for this week's To the Ode of the Duckling, here is a Terry Pratchett quote. Suddenly, everyone was interested in her feet. Of course, feet were important, but what did people expect to happen to them? She swung them back and forth on the ends of her legs. They didn't do anything strange, so she got into bed. Who is the she?
It feels like a witch to me.
yes, the Perry annoyed me, and I did somewhat yearn for, is there any of these magical, very powerful beings who are good naturally? The Ifrit are really not good. The Marid
Right.
have a code of their own, and we do find out that there are many who are peaceful and not uh, yearning for blood. But the huge, powerful one of this ocean, Tiamat, is definitely not kind, not even to
No.
her own, even to the Marid. She isn't loving or really caring for them, which is how
And
Ali
even a bit
gets the Marid on his side,
petty.
as he points that out. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's selfish to the extreme, and she just
Yeah.
thrives on chaos, which was a very good, I would say, a very good interpretation of the mythological Tiamat, who is chaos. So I felt like she
Mm-hmm.
did nail it. I just didn't like her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you find out about, the mother of the Northern Ocean doesn't sound any better.
Right.
So I did wish there was some powerful beings who were still good.
It is interesting that they believe in God, the creator, that they pray to the creator, that even though they are these extremely powerful beings, that they do answer to a higher power. I thought that was super interesting because I don't know that I've seen that in any other magical system in any other book.
That is very true. And I would say that was the next thing I thought of. The most powerful, so that would say the most powerful being in this book gives them that individual liberty that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So the only time you see really God is through the actions of the characters themselves. I'm totally with you in that I really appreciate the mix of the mythology, the fantasy, and God still being a force. Nari's relationship with religion throughout this series is a beautiful example of how religion can be a strength. Even when you see people who use it to explain their prejudices and to gain power, you don't blame the god of that religion. She doesn't blame the creator for the interpretation of the texts that has caused this uh, abuse of the Shafit and other tribes for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
And she can separate the human iteration of the religion and the strength that she gains from the creator and from following the generations of her family and their belief.
You're right. When she begins making her own fire altars without any sense of uh, sarcasm or anything, but truly in her heart, creating it to gain strength from it. I thought that was a really beautiful moment.
And in the last book, she has a moment of unconscious, she's not thinking about it. It just comes naturally of her praying to the creator in her mind for, for it to work out, for the strength to make it through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. You have the two, Ali and Nari, both change their relationship with religion through the book. One starts out as a rigid fanatic and then actually kind of deepens into his religion and sees the love of that, of his belief system, and is able to stop judging himself and stop judging others.
Mm-hmm. Mostly stop judging himself. I was laughing very hard at the part where Muntadir and Zainab made a bet about how many times he had kissed Nari, and Muntadir knew that it was only
Yeah.
once and that he would have beaten himself up about it. I just that,
Yeah.
and he had. But
No,
speaking of them,
no, other way around. I think Montadir said at least 3 times, and it was Zainab who
nuh-uh.
said once. Uh-huh.
You're probably right.
Leave us a note in the comments. Who's right?
Yeah, who's right? But also, speaking of that, I do understand that I believe it's called a River of Silver. There is, I think, I haven't looked into it, but I think it's a compilation of short stories, which I'm hoping is dedicated to some of these other characters because I do love them all. We haven't really talked about um, Fiza. We talked about her a little bit, but Fiza and her loyalty going after Ali when he goes to meet Tiamat. Also, Akisa and Zainab and their friendship, and I want to hear about their adventures. It's beautiful when you create a world where it feels like there are no side characters. Every single character, like I would read a book about Jamshed and Muntadir. And, they're, because I think that's a fascinating story. I mean, their whole life in the palace leading up to this, surviving this, finding each other again. The one loose end there is I don't feel like we really covered Muntadir telling him that he was responsible for his father's death, but I think Jamshed put that together.
I mean, he might feel the need to tell him because it was a horrible death. But
Yes.
but yeah, it's I don't know. That's one of those things where when every day brings a horrible atrocity, and you understand that
It's like, what is one more, really?
right, which brings up the question of the morality in wartime, where if Muntadir
Right.
had done this coup in the middle of a peaceful time, just trying to get rid of the leader who was in charge, and his allowed his friends to tear someone apart in the street, and there's the betrayal of what happens to Dara, and killing the other soldiers around. In a time of peace, that would be unforgivable. In a time of war,
Mm-hmm.
it's understandable. Is it forgivable?
Right. And that's what I want to read these short stories about them.
Yeah.
I don't know if she covers it or not, but I'm curious.
Yeah. So for our last theme of redemption, is it earned or granted?
I mean, I think about this question very specifically in regards to Dara, and it's interesting because I think he needs this purpose. It's for the first time in his long, long life he's been given a purpose that's actually going to help people. But I feel that his redemption is
And one that he's chosen.
right. His redemption is granted to him by Nari, that by allowing him to choose and he chooses this path of redemption, it's you know, I don't know. The only person who can then I feel like give it to himself is him eventually. Like, because when will it ever be enough? When will he ever have saved enough people to wipe the slate clean? And it's like he really can't.
Yeah, I think you're right. To me, the answer to that question is both, because it has to be earned in the fact that you have to ask for it, and you have to actually turn around and face the devastation you've caused, and whatever that is, and work to heal it in some fashion. Now, he couldn't do it directly to the victims because they didn't want him anywhere near them.
Right.
He couldn't physically help them in any way. So, helping the enslaved jinn is a way in which he can seek redemption. It's not so much about whether it's enough, it's where mercy meets asking for forgiveness, asking for redemption.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a level of mercy, because if you just go with the justice without mercy, there is no redemption arc.
Right.
It's kind of the beautiful magical moment of the grace of love, really.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the love of your creator, the love of another person who sees the good in you and sees that you are going to choose that redemption. Ali is saying he could come back with an army. And she says, "Do you trust me?" He's not coming back. She knew beyond a doubt. And that
Right.
that in itself is a mercy.
Right.
But it's a mercy he did have to earn. She wouldn't have given it to him if, he had continued on always believing what he had from the beginning.
Right. Which brings me to my final theme, which I apologize, I forgot to mention in the beginning, but we've been following Nahri on this path of finding herself. And I feel like that final moment is when Maniza gives over her name to the Ifrit to enslave her. And she is able to shake it because although her real name, Golbar, is given to the Ifrit, it's almost that it's a remembering and a choosing that she is Nahri, and she says her name to herself, and she can feel the shackles like slip off of her, and I loved that moment.
That was one of the moments I was thinking about with Liberty, where in claiming her own identity and claiming her own individual self, that is how she gains liberty. And then at the end, she's giving up a certain amount of her liberty. Another thing that I really appreciate in this last book, and another thing I don't know that I've seen anywhere else, is actually giving a moment to the soldiers of the defeated person. So Maniza's gone,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a handful of her original soldiers left alive. And we actually get to see Dara talking to them and see their reaction to realizing just what Maniza had been doing and what they had been helping her do.
Mm-hmm.
They say we were following orders. We pulled parents away from children. And now they're finding out they were pulling them away to be murdered and given to the Ifrit.
Mm-hmm.
And only one of those soldiers refuses to believe Dara. Is the one who had been chosen to replace him. Is saying, "Oh, how convenient! You picked the other Nahid, and now suddenly Maniza's corrupt." But all the rest of them take it to heart and feel it, and you get to sit with them through that.
Yeah, and she's really weaved these storylines together so beautifully for all 3 books.
And you loved the last line of the second book is Nari always smiles at her mark.
Mm-hmm.
And that is again the last line of the third book. Mm-hmm. And this time she's conning them all into a good government and peace.
And then just the cherry on top for me was her finding her grandfather in the kitchen and finding that he was the man who was making her dishes from Cairo back in book 2, and that they get to have a relationship. So that they talk about the found family in the hospital when Akisa and Faiza and Ali are all around her, and that is really beautiful as well. But her getting to have Jamshed and her grandfather is, that just really, I really sealed this into one of my favorite series. Is Series I.
It is so beautiful and so deep. There's not very many series that I've read recently that feels not only emotionally deep, but mythologically, historically, culturally.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she weaves something together that will stay with you. It took a lot to get through. I'm so glad we did it as a podcast, because not even that I would consciously put it down and stop reading, like, oh, I'm never finishing this book, but it would be like,
right,
oh, I just don't feel up to it this evening. I just can't
right.
take it this evening. And then, months would go by. So this is a nice discipline to actually make it to this beautiful redemptive end.
Yes, absolutely.
My final wish, which if we have any fanfic authors listening, I would love it. I want a fanfic of Dara as the Deva version of Doctor Who.
Oh.
Think about it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Quite the mashup.
It works. You've got someone who's almost immortal, who's dealing with a lot of pain and needs redemption, is going around saving, in this case it's slaves, and rather than the whole entire universe.
Yeah. No, I like it.
He can have friends along the way once he's ready.
Yeah. Oh.
He can go on little adventures finding the slave rings.
Yeah. Probably maybe find one more Perry who's a good friend.
Well, that would be nice. Yeah. And I would like to see more of the winged lions.
Oh, yeah.
That was an awesome
That was
thing
very cool.
that we get to see. And they're described so, that wasn't how I'd been imagining them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so much cooler.
Yep. We did not cover, every second of every part of this book. It is well worth the read if you have not read it, but you better have if you got this far in the episode.
And please leave us a review wherever you are listening or subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really helps new shows like us survive and grow and build our
Empire.
yes, build our empire and make new friends. And let us know in the comments what books you would like us to chat about and read together. We will be reading Thud next, if you haven't listened to our previous episode where we announced it.
And if you like hearing us talk, you're going to like Mary's writing even better. Sign up for her Kickstarter below. She's got a book coming out.
We are so grateful to be spiraling through the universe with all of you. It's not always easy, but no good story ever is.